We've got some Gran Turismo 7 action coming right up, including an overpowered car in Group 4, a battle for the podium in Daily Race B, and the worst case of road rage I've seen in a long time. You don't want to miss it. For this Daily Race B, we have got Group 4 cars racing around the short version of the Autopolis circuit. This is the only one you'll see in Daily Race A, but for some reason they've put it in Daily Race B this week and set it up to 8 laps. Checking out the leaderboards for the race, it soon becomes apparent what the big issue is for this race in Group 4. Nearly every single time in the top half of the leaderboard, apart from that rogue there, is using the Alfa 155. Now I get that some tracks will suit certain cars, but you'd expect to have more than one realistic option for a particular track. It's meant to be a balance of power, but obviously the Alfa 155 in this case is more balanced than everything else. I mean, come on Polyphony, surely the balance of power could be a bit more varied than this. We want a couple of options for every track. This really has to change, and I hope it does in a future update. Put a silver lining onto this. If everyone's using the same car, it does come down to driver skill for the races, and there's always something to be said about that. On to the first race, and guess what? Everyone's in a 155, apart from someone in a Megane who didn't get the memo. I qualified in 6th position. I'm aiming for a podium place if I could possibly get it. We'll have to watch the race and find out if I did. See? Trying to build a bit of tension. It is nice to see that the rolling starts have been improved for the daily races as well. They used to be terrible and they have been much better in recent weeks. Getting ready with the start, I'm hoping the rev limiter RNG works in my favour so I don't drop too far behind the guys in front. I always have trouble trying to judge the speed on the first corners, especially if I'm near the front, because you don't have a chance to get up to speed and the braking distances are all over the place. We do get the usual carnage into the first corner as Norinrad cuts the corner and the guy who was in 3rd place properly sent it and went off. Norinrad has picked up a half-second penalty. I'm watching my mirrors a bit too closely and don't hit the anchors fast enough. Give Norinrad a quick tap and lose my position, so I'm down into 6th. But I needn't worry too much as the guys in front are battling and I'm likely to get the places back, especially when Norinrad completely takes off the guys in front and sends me up into 3rd place. I know I was hoping for a podium position, but I thought there might be a bit more of a fight than this. Anyway, let's try and keep pace with the cars in front. I'm noticing the guy in the rearview mirror is dropping back a little bit, so I can forget about them for now and concentrate on the cars in front. I was aiming to try and not drop too much time, but unfortunately I make a bit of a mess of this corner and brake too heavily. Still make it round though, okay. Slightly worried about getting a penalty for cutting that corner, but I do actually get away with it. The car behind has caught up a fair bit though, and they are gaining with the slipstream on this straight. So I'm going to have to be really careful going into this first corner. I can see him making a move, so I decide to let him go and go for the undercut, which actually works out okay. Give him enough space so I don't force him off the track, and I managed to regain my 3rd position. My mission now was to keep him behind me whilst gaining on the cars in front, and that's exactly what happened through this section of curves. Managed to gain up on CSTI, and I can see 4th place dropping into the distance a little bit in the rear view mirror. This is quite a tricky section of the track. You've got to be very careful about hitting the grass. As the guy in 4th place just found out, you can see him in the rearview mirror disappear off into the distance after going wide and leaving me free to concentrate on the cars in front. And looking at the split times, you can see I am actually gaining on the car in 2nd place. You have to be really careful on this tight bend though. So easy to go wide and lose a load of time. But as I'm going round, I can hear a massive clunk behind me as one of the cars goes flying off into the gravel. Slipstream was really important in this race, as you'll see on this straight as I close right up to CHTI before the bend. Especially with these cars being relatively slow, you want every advantage you can get in acceleration. Obviously that brings its own problems with braking distances and dirty air on some of the corners. CHTI had to double brake there, which lost him even more time, and I'm up to within 0.3 of a second. I do overestimate the effect of the slipstream though and have a little look up inside, which messes my line up and also seems to put him off because he goes wide and I follow him, nearly taking myself off the track. but I do manage to save it, and unfortunately losing some time. I do regain my composure though, and manage to catch up a little bit with CSTI through this section of bends, where I'm once again a little bit faster than he is. Getting the power down nice and early on this bend as he goes quite wide, really sees that split time tumble down, and putting lots of pressure on him as we head up to this really tight bend. Got to be really careful with the effect of the slipstream, as I mentioned before. I brake a little bit too late, but not as late as he does, as he goes flying off the track and gifts me a second position. The big question now is, can I gain nearly 3.5 seconds to challenge the guy in first place? And the answer is, no I can't. He's way too fast and I have to settle for a second place finish. I'm more than happy with that result though, because I did gain 4 places during the race, and a clean race bonus is always nice to get. On to race 2 now, and this one turns into Wreckfest rather than Gran Turismo. First lap is pretty uneventful, so we join the second lap, just as I get punted off on the first corner. Checking the replay of the car behind me, and you can see him hit me off the track, and he apologised to me after the race. But checking the car behind him, you can actually see it wasn't his fault at all. It was a bit of a Newton's cradle that sent me off into the gravel. By the time I got back onto the track and up to speed again, I dropped all the way down to 9th position. Not really ideal, but it just happens sometimes like that in the daily races. Jumping forward to the next lap, and I'm still chasing this pack in front. I am getting a bit closer on Daz though. You can see the split times are tumbling down, and I'm thinking about making a move as we go through this section. Managed to go up the inside around this bend, leave him just enough space on the curb on the outside. That puts me up into 8th, and I'm now chasing Andreas. Through this long bend, I take a later apex, which gives me a bit more power late on, and I managed to pull alongside Andreas as we go round the next bend. It's a race to the hairpin, but I brake a little bit early so I don't knock him wide. I don't see a flash of orange in the rearview mirror, which puts me off, and I end up knocking him wide anyway. He retaliates, but I managed to keep it as we go down the straight. Checking the replay, you can see that the orange car doesn't actually touch me, and I just send Andreas wide, and he gives me a bit of a nibble back. It's a race now down to turn 1. Andreas does have the advantage of the slipstream. As I mentioned earlier, very important in this race, and he closes up alongside me. But in the rearview mirror, it's the orange car again, and this time he does knock me off, and Andreas as well for good measure. Checking the replay with the view from the orange car, you can see he hits the brakes a bit late, but then does it again and manages to take the 2 of us out. I'm regaining the track in 9th position and setting off on my way again. Now if you have a look in the rearview mirror, you can see a blue GTR quickly approaching from the rear. He is going to be our main protagonist for the remainder of this race. As I come around this section, he gives me a bit of a nudge wide to take the position and drops me back into 10th. He's not the fastest of drivers though, and I managed to keep pretty close with him through here. Take a look up the inside, think better of it, and decide to go for a bit of a switchback so I can gain a bit more power. Bump draft him a little bit as we go round this bend, and it's going to be a race up to the hairpin on this lap as well. I'm thinking better of it, brake early, but then Andreas comes in and sends us all completely wide. 3 on that hairpin doesn't work. Checking the replay from the point of view of the blue car, you can see me coming up the inside, and then Andreas comes and sweeps us both off the track. Fortunately, I don't come off too badly from that, and I'm still ahead of Andreas on the main straight, so it's another race through to turn 1, with Andreas having the benefit of the slipstream. I brake a little bit too early for this corner and allow him to catch it right up to me as we go round this bend, and he'll come up the inside as we go round this section. But then what he does next is a bit weird, because he just pulls right in front of me and then hits the brakes, so I've got nowhere to go. Then the blue car comes and completely takes me out. Not happy with that, he makes sure he finishes the job. Checking the replay, and you can see he does actually aim right for me. He must have thought I took him off on the previous corner, so wants to finish the job. I did manage to catch back up with him again. He's still out to get me as he gives me a side swipe as I go past. And I'm expecting the hit as I go around this bend. He's definitely in full road rage mode now. As we're going down the straight, I'm kind of wondering what line I should be taking onto the first bend, because I'm expecting him to still be gunning for me. In the end, I decide to go on the inside and take the safer line, but it doesn't really make any difference because he aims right for me and sends me flying off the track again. Going back to the replays, you can see the side swipe as he deliberately moves into me, and they're trying to take me out on the hairpin. At the bottom of the main straight, again, aiming directly for me. And he's picked up a number of penalties. As soon as he gets to the penalty line, he disconnects. And at the end of the race, I limp across in 12th position. Definitely one of the more eventful daily races I've had. I usually see the odd mistake where people accidentally knock you off from missing the braking, but it's quite rare to see a deliberate rammer like that with full-on road rage. I've had it a couple of times, but that's possibly the worst I've seen it in a race so far. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you see much of this in your daily races? Also, let me know down in the comments what you think of this format of video for covering the daily races. Is there anything else you'd like to see? Is there anything you want to see more or less of? Let me know. After that, check out this race where I try out the rallycross circuit. Total mayhem, but loads of fun. I'm Gr.4, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye for now.